to another episode of the Standing Room Only podcast. I'm Goose. As always, I am joined by Healy. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys hit that download button first and foremost. That is how we get our view count and our analytics. On this week's episode, we will continue talking about the thriller of games in the NBA playoffs. Some thrillers, some not so much. Lakers facing elimination. We will talk a little bit about Boston's big moves. We'll transition over to the MLB as the Cubs. The Cubs are hot right now, possibly the hottest team in the MLB. As weird as it sounds, it is real. Make sure you guys are following our social media accounts. We are on Instagram. We are on Twitter. We are SR Only Pod. Make sure you guys stay interactive. Follow our personal accounts as well. I am iGoose with 4 O's, and then you can follow Healy.
My account is the Healy6 on Twitter and Instagram.
So it's been a wild week of NBA playoffs. First and foremost, let's get started. Get it out of the way. We already have the conference series set for Brooklyn against Milwaukee. Those are the only two teams that have clinched so far. Brooklyn just dominated Boston. It was a no contest. Jayson Tatum had one bad game, I think, in the whole series. Besides that, he balled out. But it's not enough. Not enough for Brooklyn, their firepower. I don't think there's a good enough defense to really shut down all three guys, including the pieces around them. We even saw Blake Griffin had a few key plays in this series. I almost feel bad for Boston. Boston, I feel like fell apart midway through the season. Jaylen Brown got hurt. I think everybody knew that it was going to be a no contest. And as a fan of the game, it's kind of cool to see Jayson Tatum still kind of ball out against this team. Now, the Nets' defense isn't the greatest. I wouldn't say it's good, but they overcome that with their good offense. Are you surprised at all by the series? I mean, we both have the Nets going to the championship, going to the finals. You know, just the big three alone. Take those three and put any two guys around them, and I feel like they're going to pretty much win any series, especially in the East.
The only thing that surprised me was that Boston actually got a victory against Brooklyn. Yeah. And it took 50 points from Jayson Tatum, and both Marcus Smart and Tristan Thompson shot like 15 of like 23, which is amazing. And they barely like beat out Brooklyn after KD had like 40 points. It seemed like, I think Kyrie was going off too. James Harden. They snuck a game from Brooklyn, ended up being 4-1. But that Brooklyn team, so good. And I've said this maybe on the podcast. I know I definitely said this on my live stream. The X factor of this team is not Kevin Durant. It's not Kyrie Irving. It's James Harden. He's the reason why no team is going to be able to match up against Brooklyn. And he's going to be the reason why they end up possibly winning the championship. His playmaking skills are on another level. He's underrated in that aspect of his career. Everyone thinks of him as such a great scorer. They don't realize what he can do, like with the ball, passing wise too. He ended up the final game of that series. I think he had like 30, 10, and 10, something around there. So game 5, game recap.
34 points, 10 assists, 10 rebounds. Like one turnover. You're talking about a guy who generally has the ball whenever he's on the court. That's impressive. That's impressive. Yeah. I mean, you got guys who can spread the floor, who can literally do anything on the court. I mean, Kyrie's not throwing it down. He's not catching alley-oops. But I mean, aside from that, you have guys who are so smart. Their IQ's so good. And then you take James Harden, who has consistently for the last, I don't know how many years, been one of the best playmakers in the game next to like LeBron and some of these other guys. And I mean, like you said it earlier. You said it like 2 or 3 weeks ago that it's going to come down to James Harden. If James Harden has a bad game, Milwaukee is going to make it, I mean, they're already going to be a tough matchup. I still think Brooklyn has the edge. But if any of these guys, especially James Harden, has a bad game, he's turning the ball over more so than threading the needle, or maybe he's not shooting as efficient, that's going to be the difference maker, I think personally. Durant's always gonna be the scorer. I think like you go into the game, your expectation is, all right, Durant we know is gonna score. If you could somehow stop him, cool. If you can stop the playmaking ability of James Harden, stop his ISO, stop him from getting the line, going to the driving to the bucket, stop the playmaking somehow. I don't know who's going to guard him. Drew Holiday, maybe. DiVincenzo's out for the playoffs now. We'll see who ends up guarding him because, I mean, between him and Kyrie, you have two really good point guards on the court at all times.
So the series starts Saturday, I think you said?
Saturday. I think it's Saturday. 6:30 Eastern time. I could be wrong.
I definitely have to watch every single one of those games. No doubt about it. And Brooklyn, they after beating Boston, there's a big story that came out today involving Boston. Boston, Danny Ainge is no longer going to be their GM, and Brad Stevens said, I'm not going to coach anymore. He wants more of like a higher position, I guess. So he's no longer their coach. I quote tweeted a poll from 2018, and the poll said, who would you rather have as when you're starting an expansion team in the league? The poll was any player or Brad Stevens. And like 36% of people picked Brad Stevens. Which is like, he was a decent coach. He wasn't terrible. He had a good start in the league, but any player should be the option 100% out of 100%.
Absolutely.
Like, unless it's like Greg Popovich, and you still have about 30 players ahead of Greg Popovich before you select him.
Yeah, Pop, he's cut from a different cloth. That's a little different. I do like the idea of Danny, not the fact that Danny Ainge is retiring or stepping down, whatever you want to call it. I like Brad Stevens moving up to the president of basketball operations for this franchise because he's on the court with these guys. He's in practice every day with these guys. I feel like he has a better understanding of what the team needs. And I mean, let's face it, Boston, they have talent in Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, even having Marcus Smart, who's actually not bad. He's pretty good defensively, but offensively, he's not bad. I feel like there's some games where we forget how well he actually can play. But to in the East, as weak as the East is, I feel like Boston should have been able to contend a lot more often than what they did, or at least push more so into the last couple of seasons. I know with the bubble was kind of weird, but now that we're seeing Jaylen Brown blossom, we're seeing Jayson Tatum blossom into this superstar. I think Brad Stevens, and I think he has an understanding of what do they need. Obviously, there's trades this season with the Bulls, and Tice is gone, and some other guys are gone. What's Tristan Thompson's status gonna be? I feel like maybe I don't know what his contract is, but I don't think he's gonna solidify himself as a starter or play as much as he did in the playoffs. But that just goes to show like where their team truly was, and the fact that they took a game from the Nets. You got to take the positives where you can. So I think that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and it's a high ceiling by having Brad Stevens move up to the position of what Danny Ainge had. So who they get as a coach, we'll see who ends up getting fired. We'll see who's available. Obviously, there will be talks about that in the upcoming couple of weeks, maybe throughout the playoffs. But I think it's a big move, and I think it's a good move. I think it is a good move for Boston.
It is funny to look back on, like, speaking of the Nets and Celtics a while ago. I can't remember the exact year, but the Nets traded for Kevin Garnett. They traded for Paul Pierce, Jason Terry. Huge trade, and they got a bunch of picks in return. What has it done for Danny Ainge and the Celtics? Absolutely nothing so far, which it's kind of like people are praising the Thunder at the moment for having a billion picks over the next 7 years. You got to hit right. I know they were able to get Jaylen Brown because of that. They're able to get Jayson Tatum in like a trade and stuff. They were able to get like one other guy, I think, but besides that, I think they held on to some of their players too. Like they held on. Who was the big one? Terry Rozier or like Marcus Smart were like, they held on to those guys when they could have been involved in like Anthony Davis. Can't remember there's another big name a couple years ago that people were trying to trade for, but it just wasn't happening. And in hindsight, they haven't done anything.
Yes, they have not. And another thing too, I'm not so sure that bringing Kemba Walker in was the actual answer either. Now, Kemba was good. Cardiac Kemba, to me, has had a good NBA career. He obviously has a great college resume. I just don't know what happened. Maybe it was the whole thing with maybe bringing Kyrie to Boston made things worse, considering he really didn't play and they didn't go anywhere. Maybe that was part of the problem too. I know that coming up in this after this season, they do have some expiring contracts. Unfortunately, it's not the big time contracts. Kemba's still there. Kemba's averaging like $36 million over the next couple of years. You have Jaylen Brown, who just signed a huge deal. Jayson Tatum. Marcus Smart's making 14, which I think is a good enough contract for him. He's still young. He's good. But Evan Fournier, who they traded for this year, is expiring. He's $17 million off the table, which is going to be key. Luke Cornett is another 2. And Semi Ojeleye, if I said his name wrong, I probably did. You're looking at another $20 million off the table. I'm sure they're probably over their cap anyways, but I'm not sure that this season is going to be it unless they can somehow unload one of these big contracts for some more draft picks. I'm not too sure as to what they're going to do. But only time will tell. Only time will tell. Their largest guaranteed contract right now is Jayson Tatum. And you know what? I feel like for how much they're paying him, $135 million guaranteed over the next few years, I think is a steal. I think he's got to be worth more than that in the next few years, considering how he's been playing at his age. He's young. He's very young.
Mm-hmm. They need to land on a big free agent, though. Do you think with Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown that those are the two key pieces to a team could win a championship?
It's so funny because I think about that all the time. Because I'm so indifferent about Boston. One day I'm like, you know what? This Boston team is actually not bad. And it's because of the simple fact that at any given day, Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum can both go for 30 plus. And they've done it multiple times. So then you look at it as though that's a big two. Because if you really think about true two guards that score in the game, you got Devin Booker, you got, I don't even know, I guess you can call him a two guard, but Chris Middleton, who flexes between the 2 and the 3.
Donovan
Zach
Mitchell.
LaVine, Donovan Mitchell, guys who score. Jaylen Brown is up there. Jaylen Brown is earning his dollars. Let's put it that way. Do I think that they can make a run with them too? Like, yeah, if they get another piece, but Kemba's not it. Kemba's not that third piece. He's not what the contract says. Now, there's expiring contracts this year on the league where, there's player options. Kawhi Leonard, who may not be satisfied with the Clippers because realistically, the Clippers are not turning out to be as good as they should have been unless the Lakers go down and they go up against Phoenix and might have a little advantage there. We'll see. Anthony Davis has a player option. The Lakers are no good without Davis, as that is proven. We'll talk about that. There's some other expiring contracts with player options. So I'm curious to know what teams are going to opt out or what guys are going to opt out and say, I'm eyeballing Boston. I like that big two right there. Between those guys, they can average 50 points a game. I'm going to come in and be the difference maker because they are one piece away. So to answer your question, I do think that they could be a team that gives a lot of troubles to the rest of the league here in the next couple of years. Yeah.
Okay. I guess their supporting cast has been kind of trash. And I think they actually made it to the Eastern Conference Finals one year against the Cavs and LeBron. If I stand corrected. With Jayson Tatum. He was like a 19-year-old Jayson Tatum.
And he dunked on LeBron. I'll never forget that. 19-year-old. It's funny because there's I'm pretty sure there's a picture of Jayson Tatum and LeBron when Tatum's a kid somewhere. And all of a sudden he's dunking on LeBron. LeBron obviously had a hell of a playoff run during that season, which is like every season, minus this one so far. Still early. So yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Do you see? Can you imagine Brad Stevens stepping up and they're like, all right, I'm looking at these two right now. We're gonna build a dynasty. We're gonna build a dynasty because of their age. Do you think it's possible?
After seeing Jayson Tatum go off this year, have a very solid year, and then even put up a great playoff performance, I think Jayson Tatum is definitely a key piece and could possibly be a 1 or 2 option on a team. Jaylen Brown, he has the scoring and stuff, but I haven't seen or heard enough about him to where I'm yeah, those two guys are it. I think they definitely need a third. I don't think you could put this team with a solid cast. They definitely need another all-star type of player. Preferably, I think they could get by with a normal point guard, a guy who facilitates, but it would definitely have to be a guy like Anthony Davis.
I completely agree. Kemba, okay, but Kemba to me is more of a scorer. I think the biggest thing for Jaylen Brown, this is how I look at Jaylen Brown. He doesn't really do much. He doesn't fill up a stat sheet. He's there. He's a pure scorer. He is like a glorified Tim Hardaway. There's games Tim Hardaway can go off and any given moment in any game, randomly. He's not talked about as an all-star because he doesn't do it consistently, but there's games especially in the Clippers, he put up 25, 26 points, a quiet 25 to 26 points because he's not doing anything else. So I look at Jaylen Brown as being a step above him as far as being a pure shooting guard, where he's not going to go in and be a playmaker, but he's going to be a pure scorer. So that is why I do agree with you that they do need that extra piece, whether if it's an Anthony Davis or again, I keep thinking about Kemba Walker in that contract, and I just can't justify all that money to him. Not that he's bad. I think he's a good point guard, but he's just another scorer for their genetic makeup that they just don't necessarily need.
Bring him to the Bulls. We'll do fine with him.
Oh yeah, we'll take him.
Well, the Bulls will take a good point guard, a guy who can facilitate, but he just doesn't necessarily fit well with this Cavs makeup at the time.
With Boston. So, but in the East, anything is possible. Anything is possible in the East. I think the Celtics, even though yes, they're not technically a good fit to play against the Nets this season, do I think that next season? Yeah, I think they're going to be. I think that they can actually still finish a top 4 or top 5 seeded team next year and be very dangerous as long as, you have Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown and whoever else they decide to add. So we'll see what ends up happening moving forward. But that is the news with Boston. Danny Ainge steps down, quote unquote, is retiring. Stevens is going up as the president, which I like. I like that. We'll see who they hire. Let's get to the rest of the bracket. The rest of the bracket has been interesting.
We can start off with the sweep because we could get through that pretty quickly. Miami, they are who we thought they were.
It was tough. That was a tough series. I literally did not watch a whole single game. I watched a quarter here, a quarter there.
You missed the good points. One. You were out.
Which one?
You were out for
game
one.
I was out for game one I don't even remember what I was doing. I think I was down due to COVID protocols.
You were with family, I thought.
Was I? Was I with
Yeah.
family? Maybe. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
Saturday.
This is a month ago. Yeah, this is a month ago. Okay. So anyways, yes, I was out with my family while I had COVID. So, but yeah, Milwaukee, Miami, game 1. The highlights, I was like ready for it. It's going to be a good series. They're going to go punch for punch. They're going to go 12 rounds. Jimmy Butler doesn't back down. We have a bubble rematch. But like you said, Miami is who we thought they were. And you know what? I can't take it away from Miami. The fact that Tyler Hero did ball out in the bubble's a different atmosphere. Your depth of perception is completely different. But the fact that Milwaukee...
And it was like a pickup game, from what I heard.
Yeah.
And you see guys go off in pickup games all the time. They had no pressure on them. And it was just a normal pickup game to some guys, which is why we saw him go off, Tyler Hero, and we saw, who's the Pacers guy? Or TJ Warren. TJ Warren went off.
TJ Warren, yeah.
He went off in the bubble too. Like, just random guys went off. Sorry.
Yeah, no. That's a good point, actually. And I do, all right, I did like TJ Warren leading up until, the whole COVID situation, because he was starting to be a scorer, at least relied upon for that. But no, that is true. He went off. All these guys started going off. But I just think at the end of the day, what Milwaukee did was they kind of catapulted by saying, you know what? Eric Bledsoe, a.k.a. Drew Bledsoe, is not really the guy for us. As athletic as he is, don't get me wrong, his athleticism is nuts. His bounce is nuts. He just isn't it. They got rid of him. They bring in Drew Holiday, who to me is better defensively. His IQ is through the roof. That dude literally, I feel like when he has the ball, the chances of the ball going in the bucket, whether if it's him shooting, it's a backdoor cut from somebody, his IQ is there. And I just feel like Milwaukee took that next step to say, okay, we're going to compete in the East and we're going to try to make the finals. Now, I don't think they expected the Nets' big three to be what it was at the time, to actually be a big three. But I do believe that was the difference maker as well. It's just overall, I mean, DiVincenzo was playing pretty well. He plays pretty well defensively. Miami, I feel bad. I feel bad for Jimmy and those guys because they do have a good team. It just isn't ready yet. That's another team that's missing a big time playmaker.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler, his stat line was atrocious. It would be really cool if they would have went after this guy named James Harden and like made the trade actually happen. Would have been cool. They did go out and get Victor Oladipo, who got hurt and ended the season injured. So like you can't fault them on not trying to pick up someone.
Yeah,
it just happened to be injuries, but we're going to be looking at the bag that they fumbled with James Harden for a while, especially if the Nets win it all.
That was a destination. He was on the radar. They were on his radar, I should say. So that would have been nice. Can you imagine that? You have somebody on the offense who's literally a 99 plus overall. And then on the other end, James Harden doesn't play defense as it is. But they still got Jimmy Butler and everybody else is so good on the defensive end. So that would have been nice. Obviously Brooklyn to me might be the best option currently. But yeah, so now we have Milwaukee obviously going up against Brooklyn. We'll talk about our predictions. Well, actually, the next set of series might already be starting because that's just the way the NBA is. So they're starting Saturday. We're probably going to have a game 2 of Brooklyn and Milwaukee before some of the other series even get over. So we will have that. Around the league, though, we have Philadelphia and Washington. Joel Embiid missing tonight's game. He got hurt in the last game, which they lost. Washington's making it a close game tonight. I actually don't know what the score is currently. I know that it was
they're losing by 20 with 4 to go.
Okay. Well, in that case, that series is over. They were running the hack-a-shack on Ben Simmons. which to me, if you have to do that in a game in the first half, you probably shouldn't be in the playoffs anyways. Washington is definitely another team where I don't know where their route's going to go, because I still feel like they could potentially get worse. They don't win with their big two. We don't know what's going to happen with Devi and everything else that's going on, or Denny, I should say. Daniel Gafford. Daniel Gafford is showing signs of he's playing well, but then all of a sudden there's a report where his fatigue sets in too early, and so they have to rotate him out often. So I just feel like there's still too many problems there. But yeah, 76ers are definitely advancing to the next round. Who they're going to play? Well, Atlanta's up 74-64 against New York in New York. And if they win, they will proceed and they will be playing the Sixers, which I like that series. Even with Embiid coming back potentially, I like that series more than I like any other of those two teams series. I like the Brooklyn-Milwaukee, and I like the Atlanta-Philadelphia. This is going to be real-time basketball playoffs here that we're going to see in the East. And, of course, in the Western Conference, Utah's up 3-1. No surprise on Memphis. Clippers and Dallas. Dallas started off 2-0 on the series. Luka's been hot, minus the last game. They've dropped the last two. Clippers are starting to look a little bit better defensively. But my favorite so far has got to be, minus the last game, which is a blowout, is Phoenix and the Lakers and the Portland-Denver series. Those two series have been so fun. As long as Anthony Davis comes back, I think that Lakers will force a Game 7, personal opinion. But those have been fun. Those have been fun. They're both a 3-2 series. Phoenix up on the Lakers. Denver up on Portland. We saw Denver and Portland duke it out. And it wasn't really Denver and Portland duking it out. It was Denver against Dame Lillard. Game 5 was nuts. Dame time. What did he drop? 55 points. Double OT. Forced 2 overtimes with his shots.
CJ McCollum.
CJ McCollum hit a nice 3, but then he stepped out of bounds.
Yeah, down late in the game, if you go to CJ McCollum, he just does not seem to be it.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that. Like CJ McCollum is, like, to me, another Jaylen. He's like a Jaylen Brown. He falls in that. He's not the number one on the team, but he's a damn good scorer. But it makes you wonder, like, are they a big two? Is CJ McCollum count as a big two? Everybody loves Melo, but like Melo comes in and hits big shots here and there, but he's not anything crazy off the bench. He's not like Derrick Rose coming off the bench, who's been playing excellent all year. Yep, and his Cantor. I mean, I just don't know, like, if Portland can truly knock off Denver. And it's not because Denver really has a great team, but they just have different pieces. And even without Jamal Murray, they're doing the right things. I mean, it takes Dame Lillard to put up almost 60 points, forcing double OT, to still lose the game. You know, it's just, I don't know how I feel. I would love to see Portland advance. Only because if they do advance, you're going to have Portland against either Phoenix or the Lakers. You're going to have a great offensive series. And I still think Denver's good offensively. Michael Porter's doing it. You have Aaron Gordon randomly had a solid game. I didn't realize his mid-range was as good as it is. So I definitely need to dumb down my trash talking on Aaron Gordon. I thought he was just there for athleticism and dunking. But he's had a couple good games in this series. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But I just feel like the Joker, Jokic, he's taking a beating. I feel like they're following him like every play. He's getting beat up, but he's still making shit happen on the court. And that's why he's arguably the MVP of the league right now, next to a couple other guys. So
Dame Lillard, one of the best in the clutch time. We've seen it the past few years. Like this, he seems like the guy you want at the buzzer every single game. Like if you had to list out 3 people, you kind of have to include him in there right now.
He's got to be number 1. I mean, it's like so over the last couple of years, his whole career, I'll never forget when they knocked off James Harden and the Rockets. And he jumped and grabbed the microphone. He hit the step back 3. And I think that was the first big playoff shot. And he did it again. He did it to OKC, knocked them off. He's done it clearly to Denver. I mean, they didn't win the game, unfortunately, but it's like, I don't know how many threes he hit in a row. Austin Rivers, even like when Dame finally missed, Austin Rivers literally gave the praying symbolic to the gods, the basketball gods, like, thank you, finally. And even went on social media to talk about how he thought Dame could not miss at all. Like it was a cheat code, and he is like a human cheat code. I think personally, from the history of the game, obviously I grew up in watching 90s basketball, late 90s and on. I think he's the most clutch playoff basketball player in the history of the game. You have clutch players such as Steph Curry, you have your Jordans. LeBron has been clutch in a lot of games. He's been unclutch in a lot of games, but he's been clutch in a lot of games. And there's other guys who have been clutch. But I feel like when it comes down to it, you put all those guys on the same team. Who is the coach going to point to say, put the ball in his hands? It's going to be Dame every single time.
He sent him to overtime and then double overtime. The double one, like that, send it to double overtime. Oh my Lord. I don't get it.
The turnaround, and it almost looked like he got smacked on the wrist. And I thought for sure at the time, because he did get a real bogus foul called against Denver. And I forgot what it was, but he wasn't hacked. And they ended up reviewing it, and it ended up being a foul, loose ball foul, because they're like, well, he did technically touch him, and it was before the shot, but it wasn't really a foul, so they let him take it out. And I think that's when he hit the 3 to send it in the first OT. I could be wrong. But yeah, I mean, I just don't get it. And CJ McCollum did have a huge 3. I think, I don't know if it was the first overtime or in the 4th, but it was like 9 seconds left, and he was floating out of bounds and just drilled it. Man, now it's reminding me of Ray Allen with Miami and his 3 that he hit against San Antonio. It's art. It's art to be able to hit the difficult shots, to hit logo 3-pointers day in and day out. And Dame was on a little stretch towards the end of the season where he was kind of not shooting so hot, but so it's nice to see him coming around and being the clutch Dame that he is. So we'll see. I mean, do you think Denver's gonna seal the deal here?
Man, 3-2. I gotta say, yeah.
Portland was favorited in their last home game, and I was trying to figure out why, but it seems like a lot of these home teams are getting favorited, like the Knicks against Atlanta tonight. You know, for me, I'm like, I'm going to take Atlanta on the money line because the Knicks aren't that good, but they're home, so okay, maybe. We'll see.
I think Denver closes it out.
I have a feeling, yeah.
This is like the Brooklyn-Boston series where I'm not saying Denver is Brooklyn. They aren't as close talent-wise. But Portland, you need Dame to put up 50 points every single game to have a chance. And it's hard in a 7-game series. 2 games left, he could possibly put up 50 points in each game, but still it relies on the remainder of the team to help him out right there. And I just don't think so.
Yeah. McCollum puts up 30. Okay, you're at 80 points. Denver's going to put up 115 points, 110 points against Portland. Portland's defense isn't great. And Denver's offense is good enough to continue to, put pressure on them. So I agree with you. I think that Denver's going to seal the deal in Game 6, and they're going to go on to the next round. The other series that we definitely need to talk about, Phoenix versus LA Lakers. Phoenix is up 3-2. They're up 3-2. Anthony Davis had to sit the last game, and it was a massacre. It was not a fun game to watch. I took the odds boost on LeBron's triple-double, which did not happen. Phoenix made Los Angeles look like high schoolers. The way that they were moving the basketball on offense, the Lakers couldn't hit anything on their side of the court. Chris Paul looks healthier, I should say. Devin Booker looked great. The Lakers will not win if Anthony Davis has to sit another game. And that's just a fact. Even though that they're home in Game 6, I just don't see them. They might make it close. LeBron, I mean, you can never count LeBron out, but they just don't have it without Anthony Davis. Chris Paul, Devin Booker. I can't even see DeAndre Ayton hasn't really done much. He's good. He's having a good series. I like Michael Bridget. Cameron Payne, who Chicago had at one point and let him go because they're like, he really is not a NBA type player. Shout out to him for proving the haters wrong. And I'm a big fan of Michael Bridges. I'm a huge fan of Michael Bridges. I think this guy does the right thing all the time. He does not need to blow up for 20, 25 points a game. He's just right place at the right time. He's young, and I like what he's doing right now to help that team.
Game 6 tomorrow. Anthony Davis needs to play. I don't understand how he doesn't. I get that there's injuries. I get like sitting Joel Embiid today was perfectly fine because they're up 3-1 and their team is way better than the Wizards. But in a series like Phoenix, LA, you have to play Davis. At least just try. I also don't think it was an injury kind of like Kevin Durant. You remember when Kevin Durant came back and he tore his Achilles?
Or his Achilles, yeah.
You cannot have that type of, like, I don't think that type of injury would have happened with Anthony Davis.
Strained groin. To me, I look at like hunger. I think about like your Terrell Owens playing with a broken ankle and guys who get beat up and go out there because they're like, I'm a difference maker whether or not I put up 30 points or not. Like Anthony Davis, his presence on the court is gonna be a huge difference maker. He could be a decoy. He doesn't have to go 100%. Or maybe you play him instead of playing 32, 35 minutes, maybe you play him 18, 20 minutes. Those 18 to 20 minutes can be the difference in stopping a 20-1 run against, what Phoenix did. It was like 20. I don't even know. It was a huge run. But you have Anthony Davis, just his body out there, that can cause some good things to happen for the Lakers. Just having him out there. Now, of course, the supporting cast did not do anything. Kuzma, Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder didn't do anything. Or Schroeder. He did not do anything in the game. We saw him in game 1, game 2, driving to the hoop at will. He didn't do it. Supporting cast has to show up too.
There's a statistic about, he might be like, I don't know how many people have done this, but he had 0 points on 9 shot attempts or more. And he might have been like the first Laker to do so or something like that.
Which is odd because if there was a bet that said, hey, even he would shoot 1 for 9 in the game, even give him 1 bucket, I would go against that bet all the time. Like, there's no way Dennis Schroeder, he is not that. He's good. To me, he's one of the better supporting cast in the league when it comes to not being considered a big 3 or big 2. So that can't happen either. That cannot happen either. I don't know. I think that the fact that Chris Paul's playing with a bum shoulder, to me, says, hey, he wants to win. He wants his team to win. Whether or not he's doing anything on the court, his presence makes the difference. Anthony Davis has to suit up. If I'm him, I got to tell the doctors. According to him, he's like, the team doctors will let me know. If I'm him, I'm telling the team doctors, I feel fine. Unless there's a chance I'm risking a serious tear somewhere, I feel fine. I'm going to be on the court. Coach, between you and I feel quote unquote fine. Maybe I should only play 20 minutes. Wink, wink. Maybe. I don't know. Chris Paul wasn't playing in the fourth quarter of the first few games while rehabbing his shoulder. Maybe that's what they have to do with Anthony Davis. Get him in the first quarter. Take the first quarter. Second quarter, you can give up. Keep it close. Get him back in the third quarter, and maybe in a late stretch in the fourth, if you need him, throw him in there. But you don't have to now you kind of have to. You're down 3-2. But you need him on the court. It's that simple. I will take Anthony Davis hurt in NBA 2K, where his rating drops from a 94 to a 77 simply because his body's on the court. It's not rocket science. You got to play. And if you don't want to play, then you're okay with waiting until next year as a franchise and as a player, if there is next year.
It just can't happen. If he goes out, plays 5 minutes, and is like, I can't do it, then okay, sure. Then that's fine. That's but different. Like you cannot just sit out and not even suit up and be like, all right, yeah, like I'm watching you guys play. I get, like you said, it's tough injury wise. I don't know what's going on with him. I don't have a pulled groin, but in a playoff game, especially in a key series, and the series is tied 2-2. It's not like this was game 1 or 2. No, it's 2-2, and now Phoenix is up 3-2, and you need to win the next 2 games when you could have just won that game and then only had to win 1 of 2 remaining. So we will see tomorrow if Anthony Davis plays.
I don't think anybody expected, including the Lakers, that they would be down 30 points the whole game. I don't think anybody, 35 at one point. I don't think they expected that. I don't think anybody expected that. So now I would assume they're like, okay, he's our glue piece. He's whatever you want to call him. He's going to play. He's going to play. And if he doesn't, then to me, they don't care. And I'd be surprised if they can keep all these pieces together next year.
Man,
with that being said,
if the Lakers get knocked out here first round, I see a lot of people talking about how the Lakers, this is the shortest offseason in NBA history. They only had like 30 days off. All these other teams had like a month's off. It's like, yeah, I got it. Yeah, they've had a pretty long stretch. But still, I predicted them to make the finals at least.
That's just an excuse. That's an excuse for guys who are getting old, aka LeBron James. So I don't know. It's inexcusable. It doesn't take away from the horrible game that they had. I mean, LeBron had an okay game. LeBron was like forcing I feel like LeBron was trying too hard to play point guard. And yes, the last game needed to be a LeBron takeover game, like we've seen early in his career, and just put shit aside and just drive and just have that takeover. But he didn't. He had a good game, but nobody else helped. And unfortunately, now they're facing Game 6, and we'll see what ends up happening with Anthony Davis for tomorrow night. That being said, that is going to wrap up our segment of the NBA playoffs. Come next week, we will probably have the conference semifinals matchups, probably a game or two in. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for that. We're going to transition over to the MLB. More specifically, this one's going to make a lot of Chicago fans happy. I know it makes Healy really happy. The Chicago Cubs are hot. They are hot. Like the desert. Like Vegas in the middle of summer hot. 9-1 in their last 10. They're first place. How many games are they up? 4.5 right now? Something like that?
I think it's only a game and a half.
They're only a game and a half on St. Louis?
Well, so right now they are 1 game up. They're 32-23. They are currently, well, yeah, they'll probably be a game and a half up at the end of the day. The Dodgers put up an 11 spot in the first inning of tonight's game against the Cardinals. Cody Bellinger with 6 RBIs in the first, including a grand slam.
Wow.
So it does not seem good for the Cardinals tonight. A game and a half. They have been killing it lately. And it's been awesome. They just swept the Padres. I went to the game today, which is great. They beat the Reds in a series. They swept the Pirates. They've beaten the Cardinals. I can't remember the last a couple of series, but 9-1. They are currently 9-0 against the Dodgers, Mets, and Padres. And you love seeing it. This team is on fire. Yep. And all of a sudden, if this team has a lead at all and that bullpen comes in, I might as well turn off the game. I know it's over at that point.
Good night at that point. Nuts. They turned it around. Pitching, I thought, has been, their bullpen specifically, a major nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know how, even closers, if we're talking just simple as closing games, has been nightmares for the last few years. Minus the year with Aroldis, but he still had a blown save in the World Series.
Aroldis and Wade Davis. Since 2018, they've been a little weird. 2018 and on, they've been a little off. They did sign Kimbrel in 19, but he was like half a season into the year, like where he started playing, and then COVID happened the next year. This year, though, he is back, and he's as elite as he once was.
Yep.
This is the Kimbrel they wanted to see. This is kind of similar to the Yu Darvish thing, where Yu Darvish got signed. He was kind of just okay for a couple years, and now he's elite again, and people love him.
Imagine if they kept Yu Darvish.
Yeah, it would be amazing if they had a starter. Imagine if this team had an ace. Imagine. Yeah. It's like, it would be really cool. Yu Darvish, that'd be awesome.
The bats have been hot. The Cubs right now are 8th in the league in batting average, 10th in runs. Their pitching actually isn't bad. They don't, like you said, they don't have stud ace starters, but they're 9th overall in ERA, 15th in WHIP. They're doing the right things. Who's this Wisdom guy? This Wisdom guy had a 2-home-run game. I've never heard of him. He had a 2-home-run game, and then he hit another one today or yesterday?
Yesterday.
And, Javi, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo doubled, I think, today. Just these bats are coming alive, and they look like the Cubs of old. When I say old, I'm talking 2016. This is the first time where their bat, and they started off pretty rough, but their bats are coming around. You give bats and a good bullpen, you are a playoff team in this league.
Yeah, they haven't even had Jason Hayward. They haven't even had Jake Marisnick. Alec Mills is rehabbing right now. They've had Justin Steele on the IL. Anthony Rizzo was out for a little bit. Ian Happ was out for a couple of games. Chris Bryant has been playing every position you could possibly name right now. Like, Chris Bryant, dude, that guy is MVP candidate, and I don't even know what position to label him right now. He started like 5 games in center. He started like 12 games in right, like 7 games in left. The last time he started at third base was April 30th.
Wow.
Or maybe even before. It was a day that ended in a 0. So I think April 30th. Could be wrong. If you want to fact check me, maybe April 20th. He's played first base like at least 5 games too.
Yeah. I saw him at first base the other day. I'm just like, he's that guy. He's literally next man up. He will always be the next man up to fill in at any position. In other words, he's a utility man, which is something you love to have on your team. There's quite a few guys out there where they just do the right things. They can play any position, and that's your utility man. Just put him wherever, and he's going to do it. So you love to see that because it kind of helps, too, where if guys need rest or if there are injuries, now you're like, all right, KB, Listen, remember we were practicing at left field? We're gonna put you back at left field. You played there before. It's not hard. You're good at it. So, and on top of that, his bat is damn nice right now. It's damn nice. Let's put it that way.
He's currently killing lefties. He's batting like 450 against lefties. It probably dipped a little bit past couple days, but he is absolutely killing it. And then Patrick Wisdom, he has a career 100, almost 100 ABs in his career. Maybe today he hit that mark. He was with St. Louis a couple years ago in 2018. Mm-hmm. He did okay, posted an 882 OPS, which was decent, but limited sample size. He played with Texas a little bit in 2019, didn't do so hot. Played only 2 ABs last year in 2 games, 2 pinch hit spots. And then this year, they've asked him to fill in. But he's just been a minor league fringe player. And he's staying up right now and proving like, hey, I should probably try and, or he's proving now that the Cubs are probably going to consider to keep him on the roster.
Yeah. Which, I mean, if you're batting the ball and you're not striking out often, I mean, he's batting like a 4-something right now. And I know obviously the at-bats are very limited, but he's hit 4 home runs, I'm pretty sure, on the season so far in the last couple of weeks. If you have a 2 home run game, that's not by luck. Chances are, if you do that and you keep your average up, you're going to have a spot, especially with the injuries, as you mentioned. They've had some injuries. I don't even know when Jason Hayward's coming back, but yeah, this team's hot. This team's hot right now. They're taking care of the NL, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Washington, Detroit. I mean, they're literally taking every series. I think the only series that they didn't take was that 2-game series against Cleveland, which I was a little upset about considering I'm a Sox fan. Can you guys take care of our trash? You know, but you know what? I'm excited. It's a good time to be a Chicago fan. Let's put it that way. It's a very good time.
They do have a tough stretch coming up. This is going to be key to watch them. They are going on the road. They are playing San Diego. Their next, which is starting tomorrow maybe, or at least this weekend, they are playing the Giants, which the Giants are currently the #1 team in the NL West. Starts tomorrow. Then they are playing against the Padres. And then I think they come back home for a series.
Yeah, against St. Louis. So, and there's no days off for this upcoming 2 series in San Francisco and San Diego. Definitely a tough one, especially considering their road record is not nearly as good as their home record. I think their home record, they are 21-10. On the road, they're 11-13. But who knows? I mean, you have a hot streak. You could turn that around. You could definitely.
And they've been at home for this hot stretch for the most part too.
Yep.
And like, who knows? Maybe it's because they have the home field advantage. Going to 2 games the past few days, especially, it just got bumped up to 60%. But I guarantee, even when it was a little lower percentage-wise, the field, the stadium is rocking.
Oh, yeah.
It is. The atmosphere is wonderful. Being back at Wrigley Field with 25,000 people, I can't even imagine 40,000. We'll see that in like a month or so. I want to be at one of those games. It's something to like be at. And you got to probably think that these Cubs players love it. They probably are feeling the atmosphere so much. The final couple outs of the game today, Jock Peterson was kind of like fooling around in the outfield with the crowd, and the crowd was just going wild. He probably was loving the atmosphere in Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago is the one city that will either really love you and show it, or they will really hate you and still show it. Healy, I got to ask though, walking into the ballpark, the smell of the ballpark, I've been missing that for years, literally like 2 years now. You gotta tell me, is it still the same?
Oh, it's great.
Oh man,
especially with the weather today, it was like 70 something.
Beautiful.
It was a cool breeze. It was a Wednesday, packed house, wonderful. The inaugural Lou Gehrig Day, which Didn't plan on going on for that day, but I happened to be there, and I could tell it for as long as I live.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to just go to a game. I'm excited to go to it, preferably baseball. I need to be at an outdoor event watching the game. I'm watching videos on Instagram. I'm seeing fans do crazy stuff, and I'm like, I need to be at a game. I just need to be there. I just need to be there.
We are going.
We're going. So we have the north side. I need to go to Wrigley. What happens at Wrigley stays in Wrigley, if I remember it. South side, we're gonna go to Comiskey. We're gonna go to Comiskey Park.
The Blue Jays come next week.
That would be nice.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night. I hope you're available on well, I'm available Tuesday or Wednesday next week. So
let's make it happen.
We are definitely going to go to a game next week. Blue Jays.
Go see Vlad Guerrero. He's hot. That dude's on fire right now.
Might be able to meet a couple guys that I know. Gotta get you on that hookup. I've met Tyler Stevenson on Sunday. Today I met Ryan Weathers, Blake Snell, and then I met Justin Steele of the Cubs. It's been a great time just talking to these guys before the game.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I envy you. Just a little bit.
Well, if you come with me next week, we'll make it happen.
Oh yeah, for the baseball guys too. I was talking about your height.
Oh.
You're literally as tall as Tyler Stevenson. It's nuts. No, for real. It was about the baseball players, but yeah, I'm just excited, man. Overall, I am super geeked. I would love to figure out a way if they're actually going to have the game at the Field of Dreams field, not stadium. It's a field in Iowa. I would want to go. I would drop hundreds. I would drop whatever I got to drop to go there, simply because that's my favorite movie growing up is Field of Dreams. It's pretty much any baseball movie. And the fact that it's in Iowa, it's not too far of a drive. You make a trip out of it, and they're playing the damn Yankees. Sox Yankees. They're replaying, I think it was like the 1918 game, whatever it was. And that's on the radar. If that does happen, we'll fill you guys in.
Yeah, no doubt about that. We got Tatis, who's been hot. Unfortunately, I did not get to see him today. They took him out due to precautionary injury. He has like an oblique injury a little bit. He has been on fire. Whenever he's playing, he's like a must-watch candidate. Must-watch.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that he's missed a few games due to injury, and he comes back, and he's in a grand slam. He's doing this. There was a pitch, I think. He did something with his athleticism where he did the splits, and I think it was to get out of the way of a pitch, or maybe it was him sliding in a second. It was something nuts, and I'm just like, I'm amazed at everything this guy does. And it's almost like a few years ago, everybody's like, dude, Javi Baez is nuts. Not only does he swing for the fences and he actually cracks the ball, but like he's really good at putting the tag down on these guys trying to steal second. He's athletic. He does all this. He does that. Fernando Tatis does that, but times 10. It's nuts. I need to see Fernando Tatis Jr. play. He's batting almost at 300. He's at a 293 right now. 16 home runs. And again, he has missed some games. 16 home runs, 37 batted in. I think he might have 2 grand slams on the season. I could be wrong. I know he for sure just hit one like a few days ago. It's just a fun guy to watch. Offensively, defensively, he could steal the bag. Definitely. If it's not Mike Trout, it's got to be Fernando Tatis Jr. right now. He's the next man up.
I forgot to mention that helping out the Cubs, Jack Flaherty, he has an oblique injury and is going to be out for quite a while.
Wow.
So the ace of the Cardinals,
yeah,
not going to be there. Their bullpen has just been okay. The Cubs can execute. They will have a pretty big lead at the end of the month.
Jack, is he the same? Did he play college or high school ball with Lucas Giolito?
Same high school team.
That's right. Same high school team. Yep. And then somebody else from the Braves.
Max Fried.
Max Fried. Yes. Forgot Lucas Giolito was talking about that in one of our episodes. Wow. Yeah, I watched him. He literally was just, the Sox had a series with them last week, and he was throwing some nasty stuff. I believe Jose Abreu ended up taking him a yard in that game. I could be wrong later in the game, but that's definitely going to help the Cubs. I just think as long as the Cubs ride high, I mean, the name of the game, take 2 out of 3 every series, you're a playoff team. If you lose 2 out of 3, then, you know, you're not going to be a 500 team anymore. So,
that will be huge if the Cubs can execute. Any other baseball news you got?
I do not have any other baseball news at all outside of my MLB The Show grind. I'm going to have to start streaming. I definitely need to start streaming. It's like, I feel like everybody plays. I found out a friend who I didn't realize plays. So
probably does he watch YouTube at all?
He knows who you are. He knows who you are.
I had a guy today. I don't know if I told you. I was exiting Wrigley. I was like walking towards one of the streets, and I crossed paths with this guy. And he goes, "What up, Healy?" He sticks out his fist. I fist bump him, and we just go on our way.
That's like when we went to the game a couple years ago, and some dude snapped a picture of me next to you, and of course I look like your little brother, and he's like, "Hey, is this you?" And it's like,
yeah,
we didn't even see that. He didn't even say hi to us. He's like, "Is this you?" Yeah, it's like celebrity status almost.
I guess. Do
you feel like a celebrity, Healy?
I don't at all.
That's good. That's good. That means you're humble. You got to stay humble.
Like, it's weird. Like, a couple of kids came in to talk to me on Sunday, and they, I thought they were like trying to get through. So I started standing up, and they're like, no, don't. Like, are you Healy? And I'm like, yeah, I am. And we talked for a little bit. And like today, after I took the photo with like Blake Snell and Ryan Weathers, I had someone at me on Twitter, and there's like, "Hey, were you talking to Blake Snell and Ryan Weathers?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he sent like a photo of me just like talking to them. He's like, "Oh, I didn't want to like intrude." And I'm like, "Okay."
These guys keep snapping photos of you from the distance. Is this you? I mean, who else is it gonna be? You're 6'5", Alex Healy. That's like that. That's definitely you. That's funny. It's a good time. Yeah, we definitely got to get out to a ball game. I'm super excited. But yeah, that's it for baseball news. As far as football, we're gonna wait.
Yeah, we'll wait.
We're gonna wait on football news.
June started though, and that means that some of these players, this is technically the new year, I guess, for salaries and stuff. So technically now Aaron Rodgers, if they want to trade him, he could be traded for way less money. Same with Julio Jones. So maybe talks pick up in that sense, but basically NFL news, there isn't a lot going on at the moment, and not enough to like specifically talk about.
Bring Julio to Green Bay. We'll bring a championship to Green Bay, a Super Bowl victory. Let's go. So anyways, that's going to do it, guys. Make sure you hit that download button. We're on Apple. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube as well. You can always leave a comment on there. We always try to reply. Stay interactive on social media, SR Only Pod. We are on Twitter. We are on Instagram. Follow our personal accounts. I'm iGoose with 4 O's, and then we have Healy as well.
I am at the Healy6 on Twitter and Instagram.
Go ahead, hit that download button, and we will see you guys next week. Have a good rest of your week.